I'm also being joined by Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, former secretary of the MEA here on the broadcast. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Your reaction here, one life has been lost, one student has lost his life in the shelling. How is this further going to now intensify the rescue efforts, the evacuation process? Because obviously, day by day, the risk only seems to be increasing for those who are stranded there.
Well, firstly, it's a tragic news, and one of our citizens has died in the shelling, and I offer my condolences to the family. I do not know whether he has been identified so far. But it, of course, increases the urgency of ensuring that our nationals are evacuated as quickly as possible. And I'm sure we are in touch with both sides to ensure that our nationals can get away or get out of Kyiv, because it seems that Kyiv and Kharkiv, and these are the more dangerous areas where shelling, etc., is taking place. And if they can all be moved to the western side, where the borders are open with those 4 countries, from where we are picking up our nationals who are able to get in there through those borders. The Air Force is ready to run more flights, but the problem is that those who are stuck in the east, what do? Because they are caught in the war zone, and how can they be rescued? One option that is being explored, I think, or should be explored, is that those near the Russian border, if they could move into Russia proper, in terms of if they can, but I don't know whether they can, because the roads seem to be all taken up by these military convoys which are heading towards Kyiv and other cities in that part, in the eastern part. So this is the dilemma, and I do not know how long our embassy people will also be, holed up there in Kyiv, and whether the government will finally tell them, you also please evacuate. And then they will have to move west to some other place where they can. And we don't have any other consulates or any other places where they can function out of. But I don't know what is the logistics of that. But this is becoming obviously more serious in terms of our lives of our nationals are concerned. And I'm sure there's back-channel conversation with Russia and Ukraine as to how best we can pull them out.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that was going to be my question to you, in terms of, especially because right now the advisory that has been put out by the MEA is to tell the students and those who are stuck to get to the western side on their own, and after that, of course, wait for the contact and the government to sort of tell them how to get to the evacuation points. But this journey from east to west itself is extremely dangerous. What are the possibilities of what can be done to sort of make that passage a safe way for them to get from one end to the other, whether it involves conversations with Russia, whether Russia would then take that effort, and of course, Ukraine as well?
Well, the trains that are running from Kiev towards the west, that's an option, of course, for evacuation. And I think the Indian Embassy has already sort of issued an advisory to this effect. Now, I don't know whether buses are running or any cars can be rented. It's a situation where there's no normality.
Yes.
Even if you find a bus, then I don't know whether the drivers are there. Even if you hire a bus, then there may not be drivers. After all, the Ukrainians are also fleeing the city. So this is the problem now. So I think the best that Indian students and nationals can do is to find ways of moving out towards the west, at least getting out of the city. How they do it, of course, will depend on the local situation and logistics available on the ground, which I do not know what is available, but I can imagine that it will be very difficult to rent a car or a cab, or to buy a ticket for the bus or the train, because there will be huge crowds now trying to get out of Kyiv. And but I think they have to keep trying, and I think the government would be talking to, or is talking to, Russia and Ukraine so that one corridor can be kept open for safe passage. And I believe the trains are identified. The railway tracks are very clear, so that can be done. Or the major roads heading out west can be protected for some time, or not sort of become targets of military action by whoever, Russians or the Ukrainians. And this process can proceed to take our nationals out of Kyiv.
Yes. And sort of just taking forward that point, how far do you then think would Russia be willing to go on both counts on ensuring a safe passage for Indian students from east to west? And secondly, the other point that you mentioned, and how would that, would that be something that Russia would consider, is allowing the Indians to go on their side and then be evacuated from there?
I think that I don't doubt that Russia will agree to that, as long as they don't come into the line of fire or the real conflict zone. There may be places on the border where the Russians can arrange for Indians who are closer to the Russian border to enter Russia, and then of course the Indian embassy in Moscow can make arrangements for them, because that should be eminently possible, and they can be airlifted out of that area or that zone or the nearest airport. So that is not an issue in terms of Russia agreeing to such a methodology. But the problem is more towards the West, and how do people get out and reach these Western borders with those four countries? Now, so as I have already explained, that there must be difficulties, and how to get transport is the issue. And particularly when Kiev is being surrounded and there are blasts going on and fighting, because it's going to get worse, because the Russians will certainly try to capture Kyiv, and if the Ukrainians indulge in fighting on within the city, which is like urban warfare and which is very, very dangerous and can cause a lot of casualties.
Yes.
So that danger is also looming. So that is why the government has told everybody to get out of the city. Now the question is, how do they get out, and what are the facilities available to do so?